Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the 8 steps needed to take to become a real estate investor in Canada. Obviously my experience is in Ontario, so that's where most of my side notes and comments will refer to. This was requested from my 5 sources of income video where I stated I make $13,200 a year in net rental income. I make about $1,200 a month, which should be $14,400 a year, but there are some incidental costs here and there. I'm just a small example. I'm a small investor. I only have 6 tenants. It's nothing crazy. 13,000 a year is not crazy, but it's just a start and then get the ball rolling. So before we get into it, please remember to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you get a little notification every time I release a new video. Step 1. Gain an understanding or build your knowledge. It's extremely important to understand what you're getting yourself into. It sounds common sense, but it's not that common. Just because you're investing in real estate, just because you have a rental property, doesn't mean you're guaranteed to make income. Read about the landlord and tenant relationship in your province. In Ontario, there's a standard 16-page lease form, so obviously take a look at that. Make sure to learn what clauses are legal and what clauses are illegal. Read about how difficult tenants can make you hate real estate. Read about the eviction process. Read about the screening process. If you learn about the screening process, you hopefully won't have to do the eviction process. Understand how to calculate the numbers, how the taxes work. Do you know that you can only deduct the interest portion of your mortgage from your rental income and you can't deduct the principal portion? Do you understand what amortization or depreciation is, and that it is an optional expense on your tax return? If you claim it now, you may get some benefits, but later on there may be some serious tax consequences when you sell. Just make sure to ask questions and do your research beforehand. Step 2, capital. You need money to make money. There's no other way around it. None of the other steps can happen if you don't have the capital. I've seen so many videos asking investors to ask their family for an interest-free loan or ask a friend for a personal loan. This is very frustrating. Not everyone's family has money. Not everyone has a sketchy uncle that can lend you $40K interest-free. Looking at it from my perspective, why would I lend money to someone to invest in something they're not invested in? Like, why wouldn't I buy the property myself with the $40,000 I'm giving them? It's annoying. I know no one wants to hear this, but if you want the capital, if you want your down payment, you'll have to work for it. To build capital, why don't you try to get multiple streams of income? If you have one job, try to get 2 jobs. Why not pick up a side gig to try to build your down payment? Keep in mind, the 2 jobs won't be forever. It's just so you can build some money on the side, add into your RRSP, get the tax deferral, get the tax refund, use that refund to invest some more, and then you can take out the $35,000 under the home buyer's plan to invest in your first property. If this is your first property in Ontario, you're able to put only 5% down on, I think, units up to $500,000. That's how I bought my first house. I only had 5%. If that takes too long and you already have a house and you want a second one as your rental, and if you have some equity, you can refinance your current house that you live in. You can take up to 80% of the appraised value under a home equity line of credit, and you can use that to build your rental property portfolio. So if you don't want to get a second job and you don't already have a house to refinance, the other option I'll mention before family personal loans is to get a business partner. It's how I bought one of my properties. I didn't have enough down payment for a third property. I didn't want to take the additional risk, so I found a business partner. We both put in a small amount. We both own 50% of a cash flow positive rental property. I have a business-minded partner that helps me manage it. Step 3. Understanding your credit score or fixing your credit score. A good credit score is the most important thing in the world until you have it, and then it's meaningless once you do. A bad credit score means you're not going to get approved for a mortgage, but a good credit score doesn't mean you will get approved for a mortgage. So it's very important. You have to get your credit to the right level, but once you have it, you'll also need to get your income to the right level to get the lender or bank to approve it. To be honest, this only applies if you have damaged or decent credit score. Use the time while you're saving up for your down payment or searching for the unit to find out your credit score, see where you're at, see if it's correct. If there are any inaccuracies in your credit score, like a credit card taken out in your name that you don't know about or a loan taken out that you don't know about, it could take months, maybe even years to fix and get that rectified. So it's better to get this process done early and before you get any nasty surprises in the next step. Step 4, getting pre-approved for a mortgage. This gives you an idea of how much you can afford. Well, not really how much you can afford, how much the bank or lender thinks you can afford. If you have a mainly cash business or cash income, it's kind of hard to get approved. The bank needs to see proof of your income, usually by your tax returns. They like to look at least 2 years of tax returns while submitting your application. It's super frustrating. If you're a student and you just graduated, you want to get your first house, you got your first job after graduating, they'll look at your 2 years and they'll be like, oh, your average income is only $20,000. Sometimes they don't even take into account that you made zero last year because you were a student and now you have a full-time job. It's just something to keep in mind. Regardless, a pre-approval is the maximum, it's the highest end of your list, and I would always try to work well within that range. It's also important to note a pre-approval is not a promise that you'll get the mortgage and the bank will give you the money. You have to actually send in a copy of the MLS agreement, the house, and the signed agreements, and then the bank will say yay or nay. Step 5, figuring out the location. I'm placing location after pre-approval mainly because your financing or lack thereof might exclude you from certain locations. So try to be open-minded and take a look at up-and-coming areas. Not a lot of people can afford Toronto or turn a cash flow positive property in Toronto, but that's fine. Let's move further away. Take a look at Newmarket. Take a look at Hamilton. It's close enough to Toronto that people can commute, and it also has a decent student population due to the university. Take a look at London. It's not close enough to Toronto to get people to commute downtown for work where most of the jobs are, but it has a decent student population, decent rentals due to the universities again. These are just some good examples of long-term places for rent. Get positive cash flows, buy it relatively cheap, and hopefully hold on for some appreciation. Another item to keep in mind in terms of location is proximity to a main road or highway. Although you're buying this house for rent, you should never forget the resale value. Buying a house next to a really busy, really loud road or loud highway would hurt your resale value in the future. Step 6, finding a realtor. Here's where my bias shows so hard. Since I'm a realtor, find me. But actually, find a realtor that has done this before. Find a realtor that has rental properties, that is a landlord. Find a realtor that can answer your questions and not tell you to look it up for yourself. You want a realtor that can actually do the grunt work for you. Don't be afraid to fire your realtor. I fired my first realtor like 10 years ago. I was looking for a rental property and I realized he wasn't doing the work. It was all me. I was running the numbers. He didn't understand the numbers. He was just looking to maximize his commission. So fired my realtor, got my own license, bought my own rental property. But that's besides the point. Anyway, having a realtor buying a property for you doesn't cost you anything. The commission is paid by the seller. So again, why not, since it's free, why not have the realtor do the grunt work for you? Ask the realtor for examples of other investment properties they bought for themselves or for other clients. Ask them for the numbers. Ask them if it's working out or not. Get them to break down the entire process like I'm doing so you know exactly what you're getting yourself into and the documents you're signing. Another good thing about having a realtor deep in the game, they'll always have a network of lawyers and mortgage brokers in case you don't have one. Another benefit of a realtor is finding off-market properties. A realtor might have a bunch of properties that are coming on the market, but that you can see before anyone else. Or they might have a colleague that is listing something exclusively so you won't be able to see otherwise without going with this realtor or having this network connection. So you're seeing units you might not otherwise have access to, you're just getting more options to find your unit. That brings us to number 7, finding the unit. It all comes down to this, finding a good unit, finding a cash flow positive unit. If you're open-minded to which area you want to invest in, it's easier than you think. If you take a look at my last video, one of my past videos on finding cash flow positive rental properties in the GTA, I'll show you how easy it was. It took 30 minutes to find these, and I'll also teach you how to run some numbers for yourself. If you're looking for a condo, it's probably the easiest unit to search for. There's a couple hundred units in a building, a couple buildings in an intersection, gives you a couple thousand options to look at just in one small geographic area. Nobody does a property inspection, and you can take a look at the status certificate of the condo corp to see the financial health of the building. But in my mind, condos aren't as good for cash flows as houses. I like finding houses with 2 fully functional units. This means 2 separate entrances, 2 kitchens, and 2 laundries. So the tenants never have to interact with each other. I like the idea that it's already built and ready for me instead of me having to buy a house, cut out a separate entrance, build another kitchen, and buy additional laundry for both of them. A lot of these houses will have a 1-bedroom apartment in the basement. These vary from $750 to $1,000 a month, and then the upstairs could vary just based on this example. My house in Newmarket, it's actually $1,000 in the basement and then $2,200 for the tenant upstairs. Having a duplex is great for cash flows since it's less likely to be 100% vacant at one point in time. If one tenant's moving out, usually the other unit is occupied, so you won't be completely left in the dark. Also, if you want, you can live in one unit, rent out the other to subsidize your mortgage and your living costs. Before visiting any units, make sure to use the MLS listing data and run some initial numbers. If the numbers don't work, then no point in wasting your time and the realtor's time by seeing anything. If it's currently tenanted, ask for the amount of monthly rents that the current owner gets, because you as the new owner will have to honor that lease. You can't buy a place, kick the tenants out, and bring new tenants in at market rate. You'll have to honor the original lease and the original rental income. Again, don't waste your time visiting any units that you're not comfortable with if you run the numbers. If you're running the cash flow numbers and it leaves you with $50 a month and that's too low for you, it's too little of a buffer, don't visit the unit. Try to find units with 100 extra cash flow a month, 150, maybe 200, which might be rare in these circumstances. Any units you do visit, make sure to walk around the property. Take a look at the ceilings for any water damage. Take a look at the baseboards for any leaks. Obviously, there's a bunch of stuff we're not experts in. We don't have any expertise, so you'll have to get a home inspection. A home inspection is basically you're paying a couple $100s for someone to give you bad news. You want to know what's wrong with the unit, what might be wrong in a few years before purchasing. Like, how long would the furnace last? How are the shingles on the roof looking? Is the driveway going to need to be paved anytime soon? Obviously, if it's a newly built unit, no inspection, that goes out the window. There's nothing you could do there. Step 8, the last step, screening the tenants. I could spend another 10 minutes talking about how to screen tenants. I'm definitely going to be making a separate video altogether on just delving deeper into the items I'm going to be talking about, but I'll stick to the basics for now. At this point, you're purchasing the unit. It's either vacant and you want to put tenants in there, or you're putting an offer and there's tenants currently living in there. I love when a rental I'm going to purchase is tenanted, because then I can interview the tenants and ask them questions and hopefully get answers that otherwise I wouldn't be able to get from the owner. Like, which appliances are on their last legs? What would you like replaced? Has there been any fire damage? Has there been any water damage that I don't know about? Obviously, the seller of the house is supposed to tell you these things. They might try to hide it. It does get a little sketchy, but I wouldn't trust someone blindly. I would ask the tenants if there are any in there. If the unit is vacant and you're looking to put in tenants, there's a bunch of things you should be looking for. Any tenant applying, I would ask for a signed employment letter to prove their income, and then I would ask for 2 pay stubs to further prove this income. I would also ask for a credit score, a full credit report, and then references from a previous landlord. I try not to put too much weight on the landlord reference, just in case if they're currently bad tenants for this landlord, he or she will give a good reference to get them out of their property. So obviously take these references with a grain of salt. In terms of income, the general rule of thumb is times 3. If a rent is $1,500, you want to look for someone's monthly income of at least 3 times, which is $4,500. Again, this is not set in stone, but it's a good marker to go by. In terms of credit scores, I'm looking for at least 700 to any tenant applying to live in one of my properties. When it comes to a basement or maybe certain circumstances, I might be okay with 650. That's cutting it a little close, but obviously it varies case by case. If it's a student with no income and no credit score, that might be fine if you can get their parents to guarantee their rent. Many investors love students as tenants because they're in and out within a year, and you can bring in new students at market price every year, and you're not limited to the government mandated 1.8% increase in rents every year. I obviously like to find families with good jobs that can take pride in the place they live, that will take care of the property, and obviously will pay their rents on time. Okay, that was a lot to cover. It seems pretty straightforward when you lay it out step by step, but let me quickly recap. Knowledge, capital, credit, mortgage, location, realtor, unit, screening. I'd love to answer any questions you have, so please leave a comment about your situation, if you want to become a landlord, where to look, where you currently live, how much funds you have. Just leave a comment with some facts I can work with, and then hopefully we can chat and we'll go from there. Please check out my past videos on the Canadian housing market and beginner investing tips, and check out my upcoming videos on something I haven't decided yet. Bye guys.